We'll highlight an organization doing great things for sickle cell, an event happening for young people. Also, the Human Services Division here is killing the game. Football season's going on now, and we'll begin with a conversation with our police chief. Roll it, Kirk. You know, I've been getting pretty heckled here in the studio before we came on the air with our second guest and my first guest, the police chief. You and Venezia Mabry, who's offset over here, giving me a rough time, but that's okay. The light's red now, so I got the wheel. How you doing, man?
Doing good. You know, it's all good fun.
Well, let's start with some recent news first, which I think is really good news. You started a youth advisory council. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was one of my priorities when I became chief, getting out in all the community, and I think our youth is part of the community, but a really important part of the community. We're seeing crime, especially violent crime, the trend getting younger and younger for our suspects and our victims, and we really need to reach out to the youth and get them while they're young. So they have very important things that they can add to the conversation, and a lot of times they don't have a filter, and they're not afraid to have those really tough conversations that sometimes even adults shy away from. So it's been really good. I've had several meetings with them already. A lot of good things planned for the future. What is
something that you've learned from them in these initial conversations?
I'm extremely impressed with their dedication and their leadership, but we've had some really good conversations just about their concerns of safety, how safe they are in Baton Rouge, how they can trust the police, what we can do on our end so that to make them feel more comfortable, not just them, but the people they go to school with. They're all local high school students, so they have kind of their ears to the ground and can tell us what are their peers saying about the police and how they don't trust us and how what we can do to earn that trust.
What are some things that they suggest?
Being more present is really the main focus. Being out there, letting people know, letting the youth know that we do care, that there's more than just a badge, that we need to have more opportunities for interaction. That's why this week I went to 4 different schools. Was actually doing dance competitions and all kind of stuff just to show them, that, hey, I might be the chief of police, but I am still just a person, and you can feel free to talk to me.
Can you dance?
No, I'm not very good.
Okay.
I had one move that I went to that they seemed to like.
What move was that?
The worm. The worm, Clay. Yeah, it was well taken. I got a lot of flack from the department. I think videos are circulating out there that I'm trying to calm down, but the kids enjoyed it, and that was all that I was trying to get to.
I got a long show to go, so we're going to keep moving. This thing with young people I think is important. I was a part of a conversation. We've been doing these meetings every month called the Lunch and Learn meetings, and we talk about what's happening in the community. Some of your guys are there. We have members of state police, EBRSO as well, and then community leaders. Director Mabry, who's in our next segment, has been a part of these conversations, and we often talk about engaging the community to find out how they feel about the way they're impacted, but also what they need. I think it's genius to bring in young people because so many of them are on the side of being the victim or the perpetrator in some of this crime here. So kudos. Where'd you pick the kids from?
So we put out just an all call through our social media and some press releases, put links out there, but then we also leaned into the school systems. We leaned into the principals. Hey, you might have a kid that, kind of shy and they don't think that they're ready. So a lot of the people that apply and that we have were kind of pushed along the way by some mentors and by some principals at the schools. But we got, I believe, 14 different schools represented, so it's going really well.
It's interesting, that young lady with you, Portia, was a part of a group that was similar to that 25 or so years ago that brought some kids together, and it involved radio. Ask her about that. I think it's something to consider. Now to something else that's a little bit more somber. Earlier this week, we had another victim of a shooting near Airline Highway, and the crazy thing, it's 2 years to the day from the murder of Allie Rice. I was with her father yesterday as we record this. And you guys have already talked about the details of that and that it was random and that she most certainly was not a part of anything that earned that kind of activity. What do you want to tell the public about something like that? Because obviously somebody just moving around, living their life, not bothering anybody and becoming a victim, that really does have an impact on how our folks move around here.
Yeah, so first of all, as always, our condolences goes out to her family, for sure. All crime in the city, especially homicides, we treat extremely seriously, and we're putting all of our efforts and resources to solving this one because it does seem to be from right now, we can't see any ties to any kind of activity that she might have been involved in, and we're still trying to piece all that together to figure out exactly why she was targeted or her vehicle was targeted in this shooting.
Where are we now as it relates to the work against some of these groups that are moving through different parts of the city?
Yeah, so I created a special investigation division earlier this year, and they've been doing great work and focusing on our more violent offenders, especially the group gang activity inside the city limits of Baton Rouge. Earlier this year, they were able to get some indictments on one group with the district attorney, Hiller Moore, and we're just keeping that ball rolling, looking at some more, so we can keep putting that pressure so that group violence goes down.
What's your goal for the back end of this year?
Our back end this year is to see just crime rates drop. 2023, we had an increase in our homicides in November, December, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. We're going to put more money into gun violence reduction things and make sure we have a big presence on the streets at the end of the year so we don't see the same spike that we saw at the end of last year.
I mean, I know that this is not your office, but what about that backlog that has existed at the 19th JDC? Is that improving? How is that going now?
Yeah, so they're still short-staffed, just like pretty much all public safety is at the district attorney's office. They're doing some things, moving some things around with different court systems and making people where they're just focusing on the gun violence type court to speed that up. But that's a big part of it. We need the quicker turnaround so that there seems to be, right now it's, hey, people on the street, I know he shot somebody, but he's not in jail right now. And so
they're worried about being retaliated against too.
Yeah, and then where's the deterrent from somebody else picking up a gun?
Chief, I want to get you back before Night Out Against Crime. We have a very special location for the event this year that we'll be telling everybody about in the coming weeks. Will you come back?
Yeah, I'm very excited about our National Night Out Against Crime and K9 demo being part together. We're going to be kind of gearing that up and letting people know about it very soon.
All right, Chief TJ Morrison. Coming up next, the Human Service Division does a lot of work here in East Baton Rouge Parish. The director will tell you all about it next. The Division of Human Services here in Baton Rouge does a number of things, and the person behind it all is Vernadine Mabry, the director, longtime director there at DHDS. Let's talk about Human Services and what all it does.
So thank you for having me, Clay. So the Division for Human Development and Services provide access to programs and services to meet the needs of our most vulnerable population within the parish. Under the department is the Office of Social Services, which is our designated community action agency. We have our Head Start program, and then we have our Ryan White HIV program. I
was going to ask about OSS first, but I probably should start with Head Start because earlier this week there was a big announcement about that. If people missed the announcement, tell them the exciting news.
Well, one of the things that came out of COVID, it created a shortfall of teachers, and Head Start was not immune from them shortages. And so what we did is submitted an application to the Administration for Children and Families so that we could address those shortages and improve our salaries. That's the bottom line. You got to improve the salaries. And we're hopeful that, mid-October we'll hear a result of that application that we submitted.
So OSS has a number of things that it does for the community, from utility assistance to helping people with rent assistance. Now, they have to meet a certain income threshold to qualify for those, but talk a little bit about some of those systems and why they're important.
Well, they're important because on any given day, we can find somebody in our community that needs help with either keeping the lights on or trying to prevent evictions. And so the Office of Social Services administer programs that help with utilities, but these are all federal programs and they all have income requirements and eligibility requirements that need to be met. But then our CSBG program that help with rent and mortgage assistance, as long as you can document a hardship, it can help with paying your rent or the mortgage. And we work with the landlords and mortgage companies to make sure we can keep from preventing folks from being evicted.
I mean, we had a chance. I have the pleasure of serving on one of your task forces here in EBR. And last year we visited 2 cities to kind of benchmark some of the programming that you do here, but also learn about best practices in those areas. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, last year Mayor Broom put together a human service task force, and we went to Phoenix, Arizona, and San Antonio, Texas, to look at their human services department to see what they were doing innovative and more creative than what we were doing there. For the most part, they administer the same programs that we administer, obviously on a different level because these are very large communities. But what we saw tremendously was the engagement of the community to meet the needs of the most vulnerable in the community. It was not just based on just what the federal funds could do.
Right.
It was an engagement of everybody within the community. And that was one of the big takeaways, is engaging the community to help us meet the needs of our most vulnerable populations.
You know, we've talked about it on the show here before with George Bell, and it was a big part of the conversation in San Antonio and Phoenix. Phoenix was as hot as fresh fish grease, by the way. But it's the Alice population. It's the people who are on the border of losing their homes, maybe losing their cars, maybe not being able to pay their bills, but they make too much money to qualify for your programming. That's kind of a tough situation.
It is, and as a result, also as a result of those our travels to Phoenix and San Antonio, the mayor put together a human services consortium. It's comprised of leaders throughout the community. And one of our biggest goals is to develop strategies, long-term strategies for human services. But you make a very valid point. These programs only serve the 19% of the population in East Baton Rouge Parish that fall under the poverty level. So there's a whole another 55%, the Alice population, that would not be eligible for these services. So we have to find a way, intentional ways, how we're going to meet their needs, because they're just a paycheck away from becoming eligible for our services, and that's not what we want. Everybody wants the same thing. We want a thriving community. So now we have to put our resources where it's needed most. So we've got to find ways.
And you're serving the population that can most help determine the future of our parish, because when you lift up the bottom, everything rises with it, and that's why human services is just so important.
It is, and I'm so happy at where we are and the Mayor President's commitment to human services. How do we move to another level? You know, let's don't dwell where we were, how we move forward. What does that look like? And it means how do we engage the community to help us? And they can't help if they don't know.
I know some big news is coming soon, so you're going to have to come back to talk about that when you and the mayor announce it, right?
Absolutely.
All right, Bernadine Mabry with DHDS. Look them up on social media. And you can also check out our show if you're looking things up every Friday here at WAFB.com and on WAFB Plus Friday night at 7, replaying Saturday at 3. Back to talk football in just a moment. Back with Matt Venezia as we watch Johnny Asen do his best Rumpelstiltskin impersonation.
He's distracting us.
Little bit. Brother, tell me about the kickoff show that airs on Saturdays.
Yeah, it's a new show that we've introduced here at the station, here at WAFB. Essentially, everything you need pregame for LSU, for the Saints, for Southern University. There's a lot of great different pieces that we have in there. Half-hour show. It runs on the back half of that 8 a.m. slot, airing Saturday morning. So right before kickoff, right before the big games, you're going to get everything you need.
That's a good time of day. People are moving around, getting the last details together before tailgating every Saturday. And so how's it been so far this football season?
It's been good. You know, we're one more week for LSU before really that full conference schedule kicks into place. Southern's getting ready to take on Prairie View A&M. The 73rd matchup in their history. There's a lot of history there. So there's a lot of different storylines that are now starting to get into fruition. And that now that we have our legs under us a little bit with putting this show together week in and week out, we're getting into the fun stuff here.
Well, I'm going to have to talk to Henry because I'm not too happy with the way Jackson State treated the jukebox last weekend at that game.
No, that was a tough one.
It's not too cool right there. I mean, people want to see a real band, you know what I'm saying? So let's talk. Let's start with LSU first, though. Is it fool's gold or should you be optimistic?
We'll see. I think the biggest question was their defense. Obviously, a lot of changes on that side of the ball. Blake Baker coming in, first-year defensive coordinator. They had him previously. That's the biggest question that I think right now. But the offense is legit. I mean, Nussmeier's been slinging it. He's up there near the top of the SEC in terms of total passing touchdowns. They're replacing a lot of pieces, too. Remember all those first-rounders that they had last year? I'm sure that you've gotten to see up close. Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors. So there's a new identity for sure, and they had a gutsy win the other day in Columbia.
That's one way to describe it, as gutsy. You think there's a little bit of anxiety in the coaching room over there right now?
I don't know. It depends. You know, I'm still new here. I'm still learning it myself. But up to this point, I think there's a lot to be excited about. Remember, you have the big games still to come, right? The Alabamas, the Ole Misses, That's here in Death Valley, in Baton Rouge. So you're going to have the advantage of playing those games with these question marks behind your fans, over 100,000 in Death Valley.
T. Graves is trying to get everything in order on the yard there at Southern. Well, how do you feel about the year so far?
There's a little bit of quarterback controversy, it seems like, a little bit of inconsistency. He likes the defense, though. He's a big fan of how the defense has been playing, and that's been the key. He said in the press conference the other day, saying we can't get caught up week to week in how we think we're playing. It needs to be a refresh, flush it no matter the win or the loss. And as you mentioned the other day, on the road, Jackson State, that's one you're going to want to flush. So going into Prairie View A&M here, the rivalry, you got to put everything aside and let, whether it's Noah Bowden, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback right now. It seems like it's week to week. You see some of the footage there. We'll take a look. We'll see.
The Saints beat the Cowboys like a garage sale couch.
That's a great way to describe it, Clay. I agree with you. I mean, and look, we do predictions on this show as well. And I'll be honest, I said, I'm not too sure about the Saints. This will definitely be a real test. Dallas in back-to-back years, no regular season home losses. You heard that right. So it seemed like after the big win against a weak team in Carolina that maybe this would be a reality check. It was everything but that. I mean, I think Kamara's back, by the way. The 3 touchdowns. He's exciting.
Well, it's the deal that he's in right now. He signed a new deal. When is this deal up?
You're catching me short term here. We'll have to look at that and confirm that.
He's kind of in the middle of his deal, right?
He's past his rookie deal. That much I know. But look, if you're playing like this through 2 weeks, you got to think that he might be coming on over to talk to Coach Allen and say, hey, I'm ready for another one. Let's talk off the field.
What's your prediction against the Eagles this week?
Another tough matchup. And look, I'll tell you, I grew up.
Eagles should have won that game Monday.
Agree. How about Captain Kirk Cousins? That was exciting to see him go down the field.
Smartest
there at the
man,
end.
stealing money all over the NFL.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you, we grew up in the D.C. area. I'm a Washington Commander fan, so I was glad to see the Eagles lose. I was glad to see Dallas lose. Look, if the Eagles come in to the Dome, there's a lot of excitement. That's a big-time team, and the Saints have everyone's attention right now.
Yeah.
So
trap game.
I think now I'm leaning towards the Saints because they made me put my money where my mouth is last week. So
that was pretty bad. I was watching my Niners play and then at the same time keeping an eye on the Saints game, and I was chuckling because there are a handful of Dallas fans in Baton Rouge. All of them have been pretty quiet this week, though.
I don't blame them. In Jerry's world, too. That was very impressive to see that happen.
They were second lining in the streets outside of AT&T. Quickly, what's on the show this weekend? On the show this weekend, again, we're previewing LSU, Southern, Saints, UCLA coming to town. That should be pretty exciting. Big Ten, kind of SEC. You don't see that too often. We're going to have some conversations with some different key local sports reporters here. So that should be exciting to get their opinion. And yeah, typically just, again, that preview element. There's going to be some packages. A lot of stuff you're not going to want to miss. Love it. Check it out this weekend. You know where and how to get it. Football. I'm glad to have it back, man. Me too. Coming up next, we'll highlight a program that's dealing with these young people, these faces here on the set. Talk to them about that. And an event that deals with sickle cell is taking place next weekend. We'll also talk about that. But listen, if you get a chance to check out the podcast, the C-Suite podcast, it's at WAFB.com. Johnny Asian was on the last one. Worst thing I've ever done, but listen to it anyway. Back in just a moment. Well, next weekend at Independence Park, there is an event that highlights sickle cell awareness. You see what it is. Named in the honor of a young man whose mother is here with us on set to talk about that next week. There is a walk and also a blood drive, so you can donate blood as well, which has been a really, really big topic around the country. People and areas needing people to donate blood, so I encourage that a whole lot. Andrea Simmons, before we talk about these young, bright faces, tell me about the thing next week for sickle cell and Nick.
Yes, the sickle cell walk is on behalf of my son, who I lost in January. And it's just an unfortunate thing, and I miss him dearly. But this walk is in honor of his legacy, and then to also raise awareness about this disease that affects primarily African American citizens. So to be able to have this walk to provide those resources to those families, have the blood drive so that we can donate where we can, it's just a beautiful thing that I'm looking forward to, and I just want everybody to come out and support. I'm going to be out there next Saturday, so y'all come on out there and see us. And it might not be as hot as fresh fish grease, but we'll see about it that early. Who do we have here with us today? All right, I have brought with me today Youth Guidance McKinley and Youth Guidance Lit. This is a program that I have in the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, you know, that where we educate them on life skills, financial literacy, career exploration, and leadership skills, because the way the world is moving today, we want to make sure that our young adults understand that what they're going to be dealing with when they walk out into the world. So having these different resources for them is definitely one of the things that I'm passionate about providing to them.
You've been doing this for a while. The foundation that I'm a part of has supported the work.
Yes.
I think people need to understand the investment you are making in these young, bright faces, help them reach their God-given potential. How can people support this if they want to make a donation?
Oh my God, just contact me. I'm at Glen Oaks High School or McKinley High School. They can always reach me at the A. Simmons 2 at ebrschools.com if you would love to support this cause, because there's a lot of great things that we want to do for these kids. We definitely want to make sure that we can get them outside to experience different things and be able just to utilize those skills as they move forward.
I love this.
Yes.
So you can't come and do television without me making certain that your mamas have your names heard. Jamaria? Amar, I got it backwards. I told you again. Amaria, Jamaria, Dirk, Jada, Chandria, and Tyron. And what grade?
11th.
11th grade? 11th? 12th? 12th? 11th? Where you plan on going to school around here or where?
Like college?
Yeah.
Or no, I'm going to Howard
She's
University.
going to Howard University. All right, up in D.C. I was just in D.C. You're going to love it. Again, if people want to reach you, how can they reach you?
They can reach me at asimmons2 at ebrschools.org.
Y'all check out next week's C-Suite. It'll be a conversation with Bishop Charles Wallace of the Oasis Christian Church. In fact, we're going to go upstairs in just a moment, Andrea, and record the interview that'll run. It'll be such a delight to talk to someone I want to talk with. Johnny Asian was on last week. It was absolute torture. Anyway, you can check that one out at WAFB.com. And again, next weekend, the sickle cell event at Independence Park. What time does it start quickly?
It's at from 9 to 12.
From 9 to 12, you can come out, participate in the walk, or you can donate blood to the organization. Fantastic cause, run by a fantastic lady. Thank y'all, kids. Give them a wave. Catch y'all next week on The Clay Young Show. Julio Malera will be here to talk about the Business Report Summit taking place week after next.